Welcome to Stay Grounded with your host, me, Raj Jana. I'm the founder of Java Press Coffee Company, and my life changed after my mentor died with 3 months left until retirement. That experience inspired me to start a personal journey to discover how we can all live a purpose-driven and meaningful life starting today. I interview everyone from best-selling authors and business moguls to extreme athletes and monks to discuss happiness, success, and fulfillment, to uncover powerful takeaways that empower you to stay grounded and make passionate living a reality. To access post-podcast discussions, insights, and further resources, visit rajjana.com/stay grounded. So thanks for joining me today. Now, let's get to grinding. Hello, my wonderful listeners, and welcome to this episode of Stay Grounded. Hope you guys are having a fantastic start to your week or a fantastic end to your week whenever you're choosing to tune in. I'm super excited to announce this week's guest, Dr. Gerry Curatola. So Dr. Gerry is a pioneer in the dental field and has an extensive background as an oral health and wellness expert with over 28 years of experience. I mean, this man has done it all. He's listed in the Guide to America's Top Dentists. He's one of the top dentists in New York. He's the recipient of the Action Medal at NYU for outstanding contributions to the university. And he's also the author of The Mouth-Body Connection, which explores the relationship behind oral health and systemic wellness. And he's been on Dr. Oz. I mean, the man has got a title of accolades that really speak to his own professional experience and what he's done over the several decades, for that matter, in the dental field. But what I loved most about Dr. Gerry was, honestly, his belief behind holistic wellness and his belief behind just creating an abundant life in general through spiritual practices and fostering a positive mindset and everything you need to do to fill the entire picture of healing in general, as opposed to just treating one part of the body or another. And this episode went down so many amazing journeys, everything from learning about how Dr. Gerry became so passionate and found his calling in dentistry from the age of 6, to his own beliefs around how humans were created and why the microbiome and healing the microbiome through whether it's some of his products or through healthy eating or through healthy lifestyle choices, how that creates an entire picture of just fixing your body and thriving in life. I mean, we talk so much about so many different concepts, and I loved this episode because, I mean, Dr. Gerry is 61 years old. And so, you know, he's lived a lifetime. He's seen so much. And when someone who's seen so much comes back to the fundamental ideas that in order to have a full life, in order to live a long life, in order to experience everything life has to offer, you have to nourish the mind, body, and spirit, which is ultimately the fabric of what staying grounded means. You know, staying grounded is about creating life. It's about living life. It's about experiencing fulfillment and joy and energy and bliss. And you can't do that if you don't have a sound mind, body, and spirit. And so we talk a lot about the role the spirit plays in healing, the role the spirit plays in finding passion and purpose in life, and then connecting that back to how we can nurture a healthy body to fuel the spirit by focusing on the gut microbiome and everything needed to grow that aspect and create a full and intentional life. And so excited for you guys to listen to this episode. There's a ton of book recommendations that have been mentioned throughout the show and are also listed in the show notes, so please visit them. You can also check out Dr. Gerry's incredible toothpaste that actually fixes the microbiome in the mouth cavity, and it's fantastic. I think it's Revitin, and that's also included in the show notes. And definitely go check out his book, Mind-Body Connection, on Amazon. It's all over the place. But I'm so excited for you guys to experience Dr. Gerry in all of his glory and to see what not only a healthy oral focus, I think that's the right word, a healthy oral focus, as well as just a healthy holistic lifestyle of just looking for things that excite you, infusing your life with passion, purpose, gratitude, love, faith, and all of these concepts, and how that can actually lead to you creating and healing yourself through life in ways that you haven't been able to before. So super excited for you guys to experience Dr. Gerry Curatola. Before you do that, make sure to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes. Subscribing means that every single time we launch a new episode, it just drops right in your podcast app, so you don't have to go and download it. Make sure to get involved in the Facebook group and the email communities at rajana.com/stay grounded. And be sure to let us know what you like and don't like. And I hope you are living your life to the absolute fullest, because I think staying grounded is a small piece of that. And I hope that this podcast and these conversations inspire you to be more and do more and be absolutely amazingly in the present of where you are and what you're working on. So anyways, with that being said, it is my absolute honor and privilege to introduce this week's guest, Dr. Gerry Curatola. Enjoy. Yo. Welcome back to another episode of Stay Grounded. Oh man, I'm having a fantastic day, and I hope this week's guest is having an even better day. Dr. Gerry, how you doing?
I'm good over here in cold New York.
Cold New York. Yeah, that sounds miserable. I'm sitting in Texas right now, so it's probably can't be any more contrasting in general.
Yeah. Well, New York is fun this time of year. It's festive. They did the tree lighting in Rockefeller Center last night, and so everybody doesn't mind the cold. It's about January or February when we want to move to Texas.
Yeah. Hey, man, I'm born and raised in the South, or I wasn't born in the South, but I was raised in the South. So I don't do the cold very well. So I applaud you, my man. I applaud you.
Yeah. We try to get some warm weather in the winter months. So I actually spent time down in the Caribbean for February and March, and I go up and down, which kind of gets me through the winter.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Well, cool. Well, again, Dr. Gerry, I'm so grateful that you're here with us today. I've been reading a lot about your work, and I'm particularly intrigued and inspired by just how much you've done. So I'm excited to dive in. You ready?
Yeah, let's go.
All right, cool. So you've been in the field of dentistry for, decades. And I've always considered the field of dentistry to be a pretty competitive space. Like there's so many dentists out there, but you've been consistently at the forefront of innovation. How do you cultivate innovation in your own life? Where do you find inspiration and how do you stay ahead of the trends when it seems like everybody's kind of moving as a mass towards one product or another?
Yeah, that's a great question, first of all, because what I find, unfortunately, in my profession is that it's almost like, I don't know if you remember, there was a Dunkin' Donuts commercial where a guy's like, time to make the donuts. And he gets up and he goes through the same rote thing every single day. And, in dentistry, it's kind of like drill them, fill them, bill them. Drill them, fill them, bill them. And that is the opposite, the exact opposite of why I went into this field. I always felt, dentistry to me is a very unique profession because part of it is science and part of it is art. It's really an art. It's a very creative field where we're working in a small space, we're working with our hands, and we're really doing artistic things. So of course everyone knows cosmetic dentistry and smile makeovers and, and all this stuff. And that's great because your smile is an important part of your self-image. But then there's a whole shadow behind your smile, the shadow of my smile. Like the song is the shadow of my smile. Throw that in there since you can't see me. You can hear me.
I can hear you right and well.
And I do love to sing. So that's kind of a creative outlet for me. And I actually sing to patients. But the shadow of your smile is what goes on in your mouth, basically has profound effects on your ability to live a longer and healthier life. Gum disease is the body's number one source of chronic low-grade inflammation. It gives you a 10 times greater chance of a heart attack. It gives you a 7 times greater chance of adult onset diabetes. Wow. If you're a young woman of childbearing years, you have a 700% higher chance of having a premature low-weight baby or other pregnancy complications. So what goes on in your mouth has a very profound effect on your whole body. So a healthy mouth, healthy body, unhealthy mouth, unhealthy body. You may be fit as anything. You may train every day. You may have rock hard abs. You could be basically in peak shape. And if your mouth is not healthy, you have a time bomb that can go off and really take you out.
My gosh, no, I would definitely want to dive into some of the science behind that. But I'm curious, when did you start realizing that oral health had such a huge impact on, or a correlation with some of these other diseases that you mentioned? I mean, did you find a spark of innovation, or a need to innovate at that point?
Yeah, it's a fantastic question, and I did want to get to that because I did have that moment. I had that aha moment, okay, wait a minute. I thought dentistry was cool. My brother became a physician, and when I was in college, I was a neuroscience major. Believe it or not, I was in biology, psychology, major, but I was an art minor. So I always, I was a sculptor. So always loved working with my hands. I'm actually left-hand dominant, so I use both hands, but I'm left-hand dominant, which is more right brain, and right brain is more creative, artistic, that kind of thing. So I was more, since I had that, I was always working with clay, and I love ceramics and that kind of thing. So I naturally gravitated with that right brain, left brain to dentistry. It was something I wanted to do from 6 years old, believe it or not. But when I came out of dental school and decades ago, I remember getting out, and a buddy of mine came up to me from dental school and said, "Hey, there's a new program in New York, and it's a master's program in holistic health." And it was in the 80s, it was in the 1980s when this happened. And so I enrolled in this program in holistic health, which was like voodoo back then. Now we call it functional medicine, biologic medicine, holistic. Holistic is kind of a trite word these days, but I did this program, right? And I started learning about naturopathic medicine, homeopathic medicine, Chinese medicine, Ayurvedic medicine. And then I started learning about stealth infections and toxicities in the mouth, like mercury fillings. And I was like, wow, mercury fillings. And it was like, well, there's silver fillings in my mouth that my dentist did when I was like 14, 15. They're not really silver. They're 52% mercury and 26% silver. So I was like, what? I'm walking around with mercury in my head, and then I was like, well, and then it was like they were talking about fluoride. And they were like, well, fluoride is a toxic chemical. And it was interesting because there's a major toothpaste company that made a product called Sparkle. I don't want to out anybody here, but it was a major toothpaste company that came out with a product called Sparkle, and it was bubblegum flavored, fluorescent blue, and it had sparkles in it. And it was the leading brand of toothpaste in America at the time. And this product, kids started eating the toothpaste, and the fluoride fatalities in children went up 280%. There's enough fluoride chemical in toothpaste. There's enough to kill 2 children under 5 in a full-size tube. So it took 10 years, by the way, and aside to this, it took 10 years, and the FDA came out with poison on toothpaste. It says, keep out of reach of children. More than a pea-sized amount is swallowed. Call Poison Control Center right away. So I had people started asking me, like, what's this about, doc? And I was like, well, fluoride is toxic. We thought it was a good idea when we started this whole fluoride thing, because it was like fluoride prevents cavities. Well, we have an epidemic of cavities today. We have more decay than ever. And then it was like fluoride makes teeth stronger. Well, it makes enamel harder, but it also makes it more brittle. So the truth about fluoride is that, we thought it was a great idea because it does promote remineralization. It's just the type of tooth structure that remineralizes is really not that great. It's actually 33% weaker than the natural mineral that our teeth and bones are made of. So that's another whole topic. But anyway, I started learning about mercury, fluoride, and infections around root canals, and and I was like, wow. But then I got to toothpaste. It was like toothpaste is flavored detergent. Toothpaste was developed and introduced really by soap makers, Colgate, Procter and Gamble, all these different companies, Unilever. They were detergent makers. So I was like, well, people are sticking soap in their mouth every day. This is not good. And that started an innovation for me to like, and I remember I was like, I wake up in the morning, I kind of meditate, and I started thinking about, I got to do something different. I got to do it differently. And I began developing a new toothpaste 20 years ago, but I didn't want it to be like a natural, like a Tom's of Maine or any of that stuff. And people are using charcoal and clay and all this stuff. And it's all a bunch of, there are a lot of them, it's sort of like the expression, right church, wrong pew. A lot of them are in the wrong pew because they don't really understand the science. So I became, and the biggest innovation for me was becoming a student and now a teacher of the human microbiome. You may have heard the term microbiome. So the human microbiome project was launched by the National Institute of Health in 2002. And that the NIH put, I forget how many millions, out to universities all over to study our microbial composition, right? So what they found was really, really interesting. And the first thing they found is there's a lot more microbes than human cells in and on us, right? They said, well, there's 10 times the number of bacteria in and on us than our own human cells. But the genetic information, they said, was 100 times greater than our own human cells. So you and I here, Raj, are basically walking bacteria containers.
Right.
So it's like, whoa, that's really interesting. What does that mean? Well, that means that everything we've been doing to kill bacteria, like products like Listerine, kill germs on contact, and Colgate Total, kill germs 24 hours a day, not only was it ineffectual, but whoa, we're really pissing off these bacteria.
Dr. Gerry, I had a quick question. The studies around the microbiome, when you realized these studies around the microbiome, is that what caused you to really want to devote your life to fixing the problem? Or did that happen before you started learning about the microbiome?
Well, first I started learning about toxicities in the mouth and disease in the mouth and how it affects the whole body. And I was like, oh my God, I am in a really important place to do things differently to help people live longer, healthier lives. That was the first thing.
Yeah.
Second thing was the Human Microbiome Project, and my interest in that was like, whoa, number two, whoa. Number two, whoa is whoa, I got to change what people are putting in their mouths. Because I forgot to tell you, when I graduated dental school decades and decades ago, 35 years ago, when I graduated dental school, gum disease was epidemic then. It was like 80% of people of adult age have some stage of gum disease. Oh, and gum disease is linked to just about every disease in the body, from Alzheimer's to colorectal cancer.
Yeah.
So I was like, what's that about? And then the third thing was, now we're in 2018, and guess what? Gum disease is still epidemic. So
there's a mixture of everything.
Yeah, it's like, wait a minute. What's the definition of insanity, Raj? Doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. Well, that's what we've been doing in oral care.
Well, let me ask you this, Dr. Gerry. Why did you feel the responsibility to take on fixing this issue?
I really felt, and that's a very heavy question.
Sorry.
And it's a very heavy question because I have a very heavy answer. When I was 6 years old and decided to be a dentist, there were no dentists in the family. I actually went to sleep, said a prayer like, God, what should I be when I grow up? And I swear I heard something say, I want you to work for me. So growing up Italian, Roman Catholic, I went downstairs. The next day I said, I'm going to be a Catholic priest. God wants me to work for him. And I actually, my mother was like, oh, that's nice. Priests don't get married and they don't have children. And that didn't seem natural to me. So I went back to bed the next night and I said, I really want to, get married and have children, but I want to work for it. It was like, what do I do? And the next day I woke up and true story, I made a business card that I was going to be a dentist. Mm-hmm. I have in my book, on the inside cover of my book and in my office, a card that I made at 6 years old with Scotch tape and scissors and cutting up my father's card. And it says, G. Curatola, good dentist, with a telephone number. So at 6 years old, I felt like it was like a calling to be a dentist. And then years later, I was in my late 20s, and I'm 61. Okay. But in my late 20s, I felt like the answer to that call was to change how dentistry is done and help people and show them love, and it really is, because dentistry is a heavy thing. People come in, they're afraid. There's so many dentists themselves are, as a profession that was riddled with depression and suicide. Dentists had the highest rate of suicide of any profession. So I was like, I got to change the profession, and I got to change how people feel about the dentist, and I got to change what people are using that they get from their dentist. And that really was a mission. So your question was very heavy, Raj, because it goes beyond what I was thinking, and it almost entered a spiritual dimension of what I felt my purpose was on the planet.
And I think that is a beautiful, and I want to thank you for sharing that, because I think most people, they feel like, especially when it comes to passion, purpose, and meaning in life, we're almost chasing these fleeting objects, or these things we think that are going to bring us passion, these things that we think are going to bring us purpose. But really, there's something deeper that connects all of us as a human race.
Absolutely.
And your story right now just confirmed that. And so I wanted to ask, for people who don't have that calling or haven't felt that calling, one, what does it feel like? And two, how would you guide someone, maybe a child or somebody who's in their younger years, to find that calling so they can do the work that's meaningful in their life the way you're doing?
Yeah, I want you to know I do a lot of interviews, and this is a beautiful interview because this really gets to some very core things. The first thing to really find the passion, what your calling is in life. And I say, what's your calling? The older I get, the more I realize that there's a plan and purpose for our lives from before the time we're born. And, we make choices. We do make choices. And what you just said about some people make choices based on a very superficial level. And what you're asking is, how do you get to that deep level of understanding what your purpose is on the planet?
Yeah.
The number one thing that prevents people from getting there is fear. The first thing you have to do is understand what a state of love is. Being in a state of love there's an openness. There's a lack of fear. There is the ability for you to not be afraid of making decisions or choices because of a whole mindset of unhealthy beliefs, negative thoughts, and destructive cellular memories that keep you from getting to that deeper place of really seeing, and you see it. It will come to you. It manifests in your mind. I laid in bed, and I could say this now, and I often don't. People go, "Oh, how'd you know you wanted to be a dentist?" Blah, 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 blah. And I was like, no. I was a little kid with just a little simple faith, and I said a little simple prayer, and I got a very profound answer.
Yeah.
That I thought initially meant one thing, but then I came to realize that, when you're in that state of love, like what I do, I love what I do, first of all, as I'm sure you do. And I love what I do, but I love people too. And I love the people I care for. I love myself. So that's just a kind of a natural state to be in. And when you are in that state, things manifest for you. So you hear that word all the time, like, oh, it manifested. The universe manifested this and manifested that. And those manifestations happen when you are in that universal vibe, which is, I think that's the currency of the universe is love. And if you are in that and not afraid to get to that place, because, sometimes you'll feel vulnerable. Sometimes people are so shut down, they can't open up, and that's when they just have to get. And, I think faith is a really amazing thing because it's a gift. Faith is believing in that which you don't see and being certain of things that you hope for. And that faith is something you could ask for. Okay. Ask for it. Ask for faith from the universe. Give me faith. Faith in myself, faith in God, faith in others, faith in what I'm doing. Faith is a gift. It's not one dimensional. So I have faith in everything. I'm going to be very honest with you. I developed a product 20 years ago with a guy who I did the master's program in holistic health back in the 80s. And he and I developed a formula, which is a product called Revitin. You can see it online like your, coffee project. I have Revitin Oral Care. It's Revidin, Revitin.com. This product is going to change the world. And I say that with confidence and belief because it dramatically reduces inflammation in the mouth. So you get like a 50% reduction in inflammation just in less than 2 weeks of brushing with it. It whitens your teeth, freshens your breath, does all these things. And it was a project that came from a simple faith that using things, and we put together, it was a nutritional formula. And it's a product you can eat. You can actually swallow it. It's vitamin C, CoQ10. It's got vitamin K2, MQ7, D3, all these different things. Coenzyme Q10 and vitamin C are two of the principles, which are really awesome. But all it does, it's very, very interesting what this does. It's so simple, but it works with natural science. So it's a product that's designed to foster a healthy relationship with the microbial flora of the mouth, right? So the microbiome, we started talking about that. Yeah. The microbiome is the biggest discovery of our generation. People don't realize that. They're calling it a Copernican revolution. So
Dr.
what does
Gerry,
that mean? Yeah.
I have a clarifying question though, because I want to get to the microbiome and I want to focus a good amount of time on that because I do think that the work you're doing is phenomenal. Before I lose this question, I wanted to ask it. You said a lot about faith and you talked a lot about faith or love being the precursor to faith. How do you cultivate love in your life so that faith becomes the natural blood type that you walk around with?
We are living in an age right now where we have technology that's beyond belief, but we are in constant electronic and digital overload.
Yeah.
And I think this is really destructive on a spiritual level because people do not shut down. They don't get to quiet their minds. They don't get to a quiet place. So the way you get into a state of love is, I think, you need to take at least 5 minutes, 6 minutes in the morning and 6 minutes at night and just quiet down. There is a great book by a wonderful psychologist, Alexander Lloyd. He wrote it. It was a New York Times bestseller. It's called The Healing Codes. I think that book is brilliant. And I give it to many, many people. And he's a wonderful guy, Alex Lloyd. He's down in Tennessee, Nashville, Tennessee. And you can go online and see it. And then there's a part of the book, there's an assessment you can do online. And it's free. Everything, it's all free. It's called the Heart Issues Finder. Heart Issues Finder. But he has a 6-minute meditation. There's a whole energy behind it. You use the tips of your fingers and you place them, in different places around your face and your neck. And energetically, because we're energy beings, we're just a bunch of spinning electrons, So one of the things that this book does, which is really great, or this little 6-minute meditation does, is it helps to heal what I mentioned before, and I really took it from him. It's negative thoughts, unhealthy beliefs, and destructive cellular memories. And when we quiet that and do that, you start to feel a peace. And that peace is really, and that ability to open up and feel love and give love. And the more love you give, the more you get. That was a Beatles song. The more you give, the more love you give, the more you get. And that's true. And if we could just start to foster that in our communities and programs like you have here, which, I know you have a diverse audience and all. I mean, that is when some great things start to happen. So you were talking about faith and love, and it's faith, hope, and love. There's even in scripture, there's a whole thing of like, love, there's faith, hope, and love, but the greatest of these is love. Love is the greatest.
That's amazing.
And, so I'm glad you asked that. And all of this is very relevant, by the way, because it has taken me on a path that I probably wouldn't have taken had I not been able to get into that alignment, that alignment of mind, body, spirit. So, we are mind, body, spirit.
Yes.
And it is so amazing that all of these play a role in our health and wellness.
Of course. I have a curious question. So mind, body, spirit, is there an equal weighting between all of those when it comes to living a healthy life, or are some parts catalysts for others? I mean, where would you start?
It's amazing. Most doctors spend their careers working on the body, which is probably the most superficial element of the three, So, working on the body, but beneath the body, there's all these psycho-emotional things, which are in the mind, right? So people can't get better, but they're trapped in a bad psyche and in a very damaged emotional state. So if you're unhealthy emotionally, I've had a patient come into me, and I'm trying to, and she's so stubborn and so afraid of opening up, and she has TMJ pain, which is a pain in the joint, the temporomandibular joint.
Yeah.
And her bite is fine. All of these factors are fine. She clenches her teeth, but what's driving her pain is psycho-emotional. And that is that she's unhappy. She's had relationship problems. She's divorced. She's got all these things going on. And I recognize this, that this is not even a physical thing. This is not like I can't heal her physically. This is psycho-emotionally. But what's even deeper than psycho-emotional is spiritual. Some people are closed spiritually. They're, that whole dimension of their life force is shut down. And those people are very difficult. These are people that even get cancer and lots of other very debilitating things. So,
can you describe spirituality?
Spirituality is a dimension of who we are. I mean, we are. I mean, I'm gonna kind of take that question and work that into the microbiome, if you don't mind. Okay?
Yeah, sure.
Because I'm going to tell you something that's going to blow your mind, and it's something that has a lot to do, Raj, with the fact that we're living in a time right now when there's the greatest scientific revelation since Copernicus said that the Earth is not the center of the universe. Okay, because it has redefined what it means to be human, because we are microbial in origin. There's right now that is called the mitochondrial bacterial theory.
Yep.
And so that our mitochondria, which are the same shape and size as a bacterium, provide the same genetic information and all, they were once bacteria. So a year ago, I did this search. There was always the verse of scripture that says, and the Lord thy God took from the dust of the earth and breathed his spirit, and we became mind, body, spirit, and like God breathed into this dust. And I was like, I don't think he breathed into dust and he made a man. How did that happen? I really had this sort of nagging thing inside. So I went back to Genesis chapter 2, verse 7 in the ancient Hebrew, which is very interesting in the Jewish Torah, the ancient Hebrew. Well, the word is not dust. The word loosely translates from the ancient Hebrew to slime. Now, the earth was covered with microbial slime 3 billion years ago. Scientists agree on that. But the microbes covered the earth before anything else. Whether you're an evolutionist or a creationist, it was microbes. They were here before humans. So when the Lord thy God took from the slime of the earth and breathed his spirit into it, I believe these bacteria or these slime actually became engulfed in a cytoplasm, which made a cell, which developed into groups of cells and organ systems and an entire functioning human being. The bacteria, we know, very interesting, is that our humanity is basically, we're a bunch of walking bacteria containers. These bacteria determine the color of our eyes, the shape of our body, and even who we're attracted to or who we're going to marry. Sometimes I joke and I'm like, yeah, the bacteria choose who you're going to marry. So sometimes I make a mistake. But anyway, the bacteria make pheromones. So, pheromones are sexual attraction, things like that. But anyway, so I believe, and this is something, I kind of meditate on this. I believe that our microbes are our connection to each other. It's our commonality as human beings, but it's our connection to the cosmos.
Yeah.
And that becomes a really expansive thought and vision, especially because there are microbes on Mars and microbes in a lot of other places. It makes you realize that, there is life beyond our planet, because even when Copernicus said the Earth is in the center of the universe, and Galileo agreed with Copernicus, and then the Pope put Galileo in jail for life, So
Yeah.
the same thing now is like, no, there's no other life. And, no, there is. And it is. And I believe it's always been, it's always been. So there is even extraterrestrial life on this planet. So there's nothing unnatural to that for me, other than denying it.
Yeah. And just on that note, because you're saying something that's really fascinating to me. So when you think of spirituality is what is the glue that essentially holds all of our microbiomes together.
Really interesting. What you believe, and this was actually Bruce Lipton, The Biology of Belief. He wrote a book, The Biology of Belief. Another great microbiologist, scientist, and a great author. But he wrote a book called The Biology of Belief, that what you believe changes your DNA. So, the microbes control our DNA. So, I really believe that our faith shapes our spirituality. Our spirituality is probably the greatest foundational core of who we are and our life and connection to the cosmos. So I'm convinced that spiritual problems are a root issue that transcends mind and body. That spirit, our spirit person, and that is where that universal love, the current of the universe, flows in and out of our spirits, and transcend.
So with spirit, the idea of spirit for me, it's an idea of connection. So anything that makes me feel connected, even a practice of appreciation or gratitude. We just got done with Thanksgiving. So, like an appreciation, gratitude, love. I mean, these are all currencies. And I just want to make sure I'm understanding this because this is so powerful. I love that this is the glue because when you can create these, everybody has the reign to create these emotional states at will.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right on. And what's interesting is that sometimes you ever kind of meet someone for the first time and you feel something very deeply, like a real deep connection.
Yep.
And it's not, they haven't even spoken that much, and you may, just been, hanging out and talking at a party or something. But all of a sudden there's this deep connection. And that connection is a spiritual connection from his spirit to your spirit. It's not like your mind, you can think alike and yada, yada, yada. Yeah, I believe that too. Yeah. And, physically, you may be attracted to someone and feel a connection on a physical level. Then there's the mental level, of course, with mind. But when you are taught someone and you feel that deep, deep thing, or that love that you feel for someone, that's a spiritual connection. That is where we are connected on a spirit level.
That's beautiful, man. I love all of this because I've been going down my own journey the last the last year really of trying to redefine happiness in my own life and purpose and passion in my own life. And I've just felt this giant shift around me as a result of me pursuing my own purpose and passion and the change it's seen in other people. And so I just love everything you're saying right now, Dr. Gerry. I love the idea of essentially having ownership. And the biggest change and catalyst to healing is just nourishing your spirit.
Absolutely. And that's why, when you look at layers, like just look at the earth, you have the crust, that's the physical, right? You see the trees and then you get underneath it. And my geology is a little rusty, but you get into the from the crust, you get into is it the mantle that's next?
Yep, I think so. It's the mantle, crust, the mantle, and the core.
And the core, right? Well, the crust is our physical self. The mantle is our mind. and the core is our spirit.
Mm. It's a great way to look at
So
it.
I did think, by the way, I was hoping it was the crust, the mantle. I was like,
Well, I'm glad
oh
you're right.
shoot, there's another layer in there. I don't have a term for that.
We don't have a fourth dimension.
I don't have a fourth dimension.
Oh man, I love this. So now I want to dive back to your profession and your life's purpose. The connection now. So now that we understand the spirit, the role the spirit plays, the role the mind plays, and the role the body plays, how does taking care of our oral health fit into the entire picture?
Wow, that's good. That's really good too, because the mouth is a mirror and a gateway for everything that's going on with us, right? For example, I wrote this book, The Mouth-Body Connection, which came out last year, which, by the way, yesterday, the book came out in Poland, in Polish. They sent me copies. And one of my dental assistants was born in Poland and speaks Polish, and she's ecstatic. So I guess I'm going to be a big hit in Warsaw.
Excellent. You're a big hit here. You're a big hit here, Dr. Gerry.
Yeah, it's really funny because it's the exact same book in Polish, which I don't read, but now I'm learning. So one of the things that the mouth does in this mouth-body connection is it reflects, for example, you can see psycho-emotional stress in the mouth. And by the way, my treatment of patients in my office becomes really a spiritual. I'm ministering to people. I'm ministering to people. They come in, they are afraid. And just as I'm speaking to you, I've had so many wonderful, wonderful conversations and deep connections with patients just from them coming in. And also, just a quick story. I had a patient come in a number of years back, and I'm the oral health expert to Dr. Oz. So I've been on the Dr. Oz show a number of times. And this woman came in, and her mouth was a mess. I mean, her front teeth, she had broken crowns. Her teeth were, diseased, yellow. I mean, it was really, really terrible. She had actually sold her apartment in New York City and took money from the sale of her apartment and went to a dentist who only made it worse. And the guy it was almost unethical. His work was, so she had, his work was falling apart. She had other things that were happening. And what's interesting is she came into me and she said, I was looking for the best and I was praying about it. And I was online and I found you. And I said, oh, really? That's thank you. Well, it's nice to have you visit. And she said, and I know I can't afford you, but I prayed that there would be a way that I could get my mouth taken care of with you. Now, I've opened charitable clinics and done all this. And she's in my Park Avenue office in New York City, which is not a low rent district. And I looked at her in the face and I said, well, I believe miracles happen every day with faith. And this is the God's honest truth. The phone rings. I didn't hear the phone ring. My front desk picks up the phone. My front desk woman comes in the room and says, Dr. Curatola, I'm sorry to bother you. Dr. Oz's producers are on the phone. They need to speak to you. And I asked, and she's and the patient. I normally don't interrupt. I never interrupt a patient in the middle of treatment. But it was so weird. I just looked at her and she said, oh, please take it. I'm fine. I picked up the extension in the operatory. The executive producer for the Dr. Oz show is on. It says, Dr. Curatola, Dr. Oz wants you to do a segment, but we need someone. We want to do a mouth makeover. And I said, what did you say? She said, the show wants you to do a mouth makeover and we will take care of everything. We'll arrange, but it has to be a patient who can emote on camera. And I'm holding the phone and I'm looking at the patient. And I said, would you be willing to have your mouth fixed and go on the Dr. Oz show? And she said, absolutely. I said, well, the producers are going to call you and they want to pre-interview you because, it has to be, TV. People have to emote. It's all screened and all that. Right. Well, anyway, it became one of the most successful segments. Actually, it was 3 segments. It was almost an entire show. And there's a reveal, and you can see it online. If you do mouth makeover Dr. Oz show, Dr. Gerry Curatola.
Yeah, we'll make all these links available.
You see, if you really want to see a miracle in progress, watch these two. It's two segments. This woman had her entire mouth made over. She was a complete transformation of mind, body, and spirit. We were so connected that she was crying on the show and we were hugging on the show. But that empathy that went back and forth was seen by millions of people.
Yeah.
And over 800 people called my office for an appointment. So the blessing came to me, just the same. And it was an unbelievable experience of ministering spiritually and manifesting materially.
It's beautiful. And I love that you got so much from it too. It's like, it just feels really good when you do good and then you get good. It's like, It's such a beautiful way to live life. Dr. Gerry, man, you literally have been like, you made my day. Talking to you has been like, I just feel so positive and just so excited for the future. We're going to make all of the links that Dr. Gerry mentioned on the show available in the show notes. So if you guys are frantically trying to rewind and find it, don't worry, we'll make them available. Dr. Gerry, I had one last question for you, and that is, in the midst of everything you're doing, in the midst of everything you've done, in the midst of everything you're accomplishing and going to accomplish, how do you stay grounded every day?
You need to quiet your mind, and you need to meditate and pray every day. You really do, and it becomes an enjoyable experience because you get to that state of connection on a spiritual level. Because otherwise you're just blown around like a piece of dustweed on one of those dust bowls in the Midwest. You really need. I mean, the greatest thing that I could say is the most important thing that we need to do every day is reconnect to the cosmos, reconnect to God, reconnect every day on it, and at least 6 minutes in the morning, 6 minutes at night. It will change your life in any way you feel comfortable. So you need to constantly move from, we have days that can really rattle us all over the place, but just stay centered and get to that place of love.
What a beautiful, beautiful message. Dr. Gerry, like I said, this has been such a pleasure. I love the way you practice. I love the passion. I can feel the passion from thousands of miles away. And it is clear, I'm a believer, and I can't wait for everyone listening to learn more about you and to
Thank you, Raj. Thank you.
Experience everything that you're doing, because I do think you're doing some amazing things. So
thank you.
You are so welcome. And thank you for being here.
My
everybody,
pleasure.
That is a wrap for this week's episode of Stay Grounded. I'm your host, Raj. This is your friend, Dr. Gerry. And from us, stay grounded. We'll talk soon. Thanks for joining us today on this episode of Stay Grounded. I hope you found this interview helpful as you create your own ways to live an extraordinary life. For more resources and support, please visit www.rajjana.com/Stay Grounded to join the official Stay Grounded Facebook group, a place where aspiring life enthusiasts can connect and ignite passion for life together. My hope is that the positivity, content, resources, and support in this group will resonate with you on a deeper level. That what you hear in our podcast, read in our thoughtful posts, or learn in our courses will empower you to live with intention, uncover true purpose, and challenge the internal dialogues that stop you from being who you really want to be in your life. Again, thanks so much for joining us. Stay grounded.